The lung channel pathway reflects the idea of the lung's functions. Starting at the center, it descends and then ascends and spreads like a canopy, reflecting the function of the lungs in disseminating qi, like mist. It serves as an exchange between us and the outside world, and also to disseminate and exchange nourishment and waste products between the center and the extremities. At lung 7, a branch comes out to the index finger, reflecting our ability to bring the thumb to the index finger and to grasp with the thumbs. The channel is used for breathing and lung problems, immune problems, autoimmune problems, and to support the kidneys, being that metal is the mother of water. The names on the lung channel often suggest the dissemination of qi with characters like Fu, an exchange place, or a palace, and Sheng, a trading merchant. Lung problems will tend to reflect on the edge of the sternum, kidney 24 through kidney 27 area, as well as on the rhomboids, which are considered to be the lung muscle, the area of bladder 13, bladder 42. Immune issues will tend to show behind the SCM around Sanjiao 16, reflecting the lymph in the neck, as well as on right stomach 26-27, reflecting the intestinal lymph, and also on or above the posterior iliac crest and below the scapular spine. Pressure pain on lung 10, the fire point, can also indicate lung involvement. I am treating lung 1 and lung 2 as one unit. Traditionally, they are meant to represent the lungs, as lung 1 is the mu point. However, in most lung problems, one is more likely to find the lungs reflecting on the edge of the sternum, kidney 24 through kidney 27 area, because the bronchies reflect there. In cases where the whole lung envelope is affected, such as in emphysema, that is when you will find pressure pain on lung 1, lung 2, but usually not in bronchial issues, which are the more common ones. Both the names of lung 1 and lung 2 suggest the idea of the lungs expanding and exchanging. Lung 1 is Zhongfu, the central palace, or the exchange place of the center. We can look at this center as Ren 12, where the lung channel starts, but I have not found a clear clinical connection with that. In other words, does lung 1 treat Ren 12? Does Ren 12 treat lung 1? The way I look at Zhong center here is that lung 1 represents the edges of the lungs, so it exchanges or sends out what is exchanged more centrally to it. Practitioners who use lung 1 for lung issues will often cup it or bleed and cup. This is consistent with the idea of taking what is in the center and exchanging it on the lateral edge. Lung 2, Yunmen, the cloud gate, connotes vapor that will condense and rain down. Interestingly, the character Men, gate, is the most popular character in naming acupuncture points, second only to the character Shu, to transport, and it appears more times than even yin or yang. It is not possible to make all gates mean the same, as we can have many gates to many things. However, of the 12 points that are gates, 6 of them relate to the lungs. 3 are at the edge of the diaphragm. Kidney 21, Youmen, the dark gate. Liver 13, Jiangmen, the camphor or the sealing gate. And gallbladder 25, Jingmen, the capital gate. 2 of them are on the ribs, at the edge of the lungs, when not expanded. That is liver 14, Qi-men, the period gate, and bladder 12, Feng-men, the wind gate. The cloud gate, lung 2, is at the top lateral edge of the lungs. Hu, door, is the left part of men, which is really a double door. There is stomach 13, Qi Hu, the door of the Qi at the top of the lungs, and then UB42, Pohu, the door of the Po in the back of the lungs and the chest. So the theme of exits and entrances, gates, surround the lungs. In my own clinical use, lung 1 and lung 2 represent the pectoralis, and tightness here can represent a brachial plexus congestion that might affect the whole arm. Note that brachial plexus congestion can also be found on the scalenes, stomach 11, stomach 12 area. Tightness on lung 1, lung 2 is often found in breast problems, arm problems, shoulder problems, especially when it is hard to lift the arm, and in deltoid pain as well. Kidney 27 and gallbladder 26 are my first go-to points to release the pectoralis. Lung 5 can be a good supporting point, as well as REN 12. If the tightness continues up towards large intestine 15, as in bicep tendon pain, add gallbladder 8 area, although by name, Fubai, floating white, gallbladder 10, should resonate more with the lungs. In some cases, once the area has been released, in cases of arm, back, or rib or shoulder pain, I might needle lung 1 superficially outwards towards the deltoid as a way to improve blood supply to the arm. Lung 3, Tianfu, and lung 4, Xiabai, are 2 points I take as one unit, because what I call lung 3 is about 3 or 4 cun above lung 5, which is below the official location of lung 4. This is the point where the nose touches the lung channel when you bring the arm up to the nose, whereas the TCM, lung 3, is where the nose touches the lung channel when you bring the head down to the arm. These are totally different locations. This point where the nose touches the arm, when you bring the arm up to the nose, is used to enhance the lungs' capacity or to increase oxygen intake in the chest to expand the ribs' ability to move. I often use this point for intercostal muscle spasms. With that use, the name of lung 3, Tianfu, heaven exchange, makes sense as the point increases our capacity to exchange air. But Xiabai, the heroic or rescuing the white, could be how you look at this ability also. Lung 5, Chizi, the measuring pond, is an important point for all lung problems, which will tend to reflect on the edge of the sternum, kidney 24 through 27. I take this point not next to the tendon, as some TCM texts suggest, but more lateral to it, where you can feel a slightly puffy tissue. I needle the point down with the flow of the channel. Sometimes you will find a point slightly above or slightly below the crease of the elbow, but not right next to the tendon. When used for lung problems, lung 5 should release the bronchial reflex on the chest, as well as the rhomboids, bladder 13, bladder 42 area. Lung 5 is a supporting point in immune problems, especially if there is pressure pain on lung 10, the fire point. Since lung 5 is the water point, it is used with lung 8 as the metal water treatment. This water on metal property is also utilized in treatment of autoimmune diseases, where we want to use systemic metal water, as in kidney and lung points. It can also be used as a supporting point in treatments where kidney points or adrenal treatments are important. When kidney points do a good job, you can look at lung 5 to clear out whatever is left of the abdominal findings after using the kidney points. Occasionally, I also use lung 5 as a supporting point for musculoskeletal problems, especially back problems, as well as shoulder problems. This can be interpreted in a number of different ways. My own thinking is that the elbow, while it does not carry weight any longer, and therefore has less of the springboard quality of the knee points, it still has that some sort of remnant of the era when we were bearing more weight on the arms. So it was a weight-bearing joint that influenced our posture more strongly. Lung 6, Kong Zui. The Kong, an opening or a hole, is sort of like Shui, a cave. The character is used for acupuncture points. The character implies where the offspring of a bird are raised. It is also used to describe the apertures of the body, the mouth, the nose, the eyes, the ears, etc. I use it as a supporting point for hemorrhoids related to the anal hole. I take the point 3 fingers below lung 5, rather than the current text description of 5 Tsun below lung 5. This is similar to pericardium 4, which I also take as 3 Tsun below the elbow. Note that pericardium 3, Zhe, and lung 5, Zhe, share the character Zhe, pond. I have seen Chinese practitioners do the same thing of taking the next point as 3 Tsun below, rather than whatever the textbook description is. Most notably, Ichiani. So this is not purely a Japanese idea, but must have been well rooted in the early traditions as well. Lung 7, Yue-che, and lung 8, Jing-che, are again a pair of points I treat as one, and I use them interchangeably. I do not use the lung 7 that is out of line or out of sequence, but only on the line of the lung meridian, and whether I look at it as lung 7 or lung 8 will depend on whether I have any intentions towards the Ren, in which case I will call it lung 7, otherwise I will tend to call it lung 8. The name Yue-che, the broken line in lung 7, suggests a commonality with stomach 12, Chue-pen, the broken dish, and lung 7, or lung 8 as I take it, does indeed release the scalenes. Yue, to line up, to classify, to make a sequence, is to cut, to take a knife to the bare bone, which is a bone cut in half, or evil. However, the character Yue-che together have an archaic meaning of lightning, as an enlightening storm. Lung 8, Jing-chu, is the only point that has the character Jing, channel, in it. So the name seems to imply that it has a relationship to all the channels, the Jing, and the canals, the Chu, and yet the meeting point of the vessels is considered lung 9. Perhaps there are different ideas about which one influences the vessels, because the name of lung 8 will seem to imply that it should influence the vessels. And of course, it is over where we take the pulse as well. Lung 8 is a point that is considered to supply oxygen in the blood, and it is used for numbness and neuropathy with spleen 3. This idea of oxygenating the blood fits with its names, the channels and the ditches, supplying oxygen into the channels and ditches. In contrast, lung 3 or lung 4 is considered to supply oxygen in the lungs, and bladder 42 is considered to supply oxygen in both the lungs and the blood. I use lung 8 for lung problems, especially when there is lung 10 pressure pain, and at times for autoimmune diseases rather than lung 5, or combined with lung 5, to release the scalenes or to address renmai, either as an idea suggesting the problem may be rooted in overattachment or lack of attachment to mother, or due to tightness along the Ren line in the abdomen. Lung 8 can be a good point for hormonal headaches with spleen 6. You can also use lung 8 when there is pressure pain on right stomach 26-27, and for patients with urinary incontinence, especially when it is cold. And lung 8 is a very good point for tailbone pain, together with C7 or T1 Huatou and bladder 66. Lung 9, the Great Abyss, is a point I do not use much in terms of needling it. I do use it with large intestine 5 as part of Kawai's shoulder protocol, using the wrist points. This combination originally called for an ion pumping cord connecting the black clip to large intestine 5 and the red clip to lung 9. There are also times when lung 9 seems to be the best lung point for patients in autoimmune diseases, though it is more common for me to use lung 5 and or lung 8 in autoimmune disorders. The original Nagano protocol, however, was for either lung 5 or lung 9, not for lung 8. Of course, we all use lung 9 as well as lung 8 all the time when we take pulses. Just like lung 8, lung 9, the great abyss, can also fit by name as the meeting point for the vessels. Yuan, an abyss, is water on the left, and the part on the right is meant to represent an enclosure with water in it. Therefore, it is water swirling in a container. We might say that this describes what is happening in the vessels. Lung 10, UT, the fish border, is the fire point on the lung channel, so it is used diagnostically. If it has pressure pain on it, it suggests the use of lung 8 and lung 5, the metal water points, to overcome fire. We take this point not on the border of the red and white skin, as the TCM text suggests, but rather opposite large intestine 4, on the medial edge of the thenar eminence. The location somewhat reflects the location of kidney 2, Rangu, the blazing valley, or the blazing desires, and lung 10 is a good point to treat pain on the quadratus lumborum, which is the kidney muscle, the muscle that we use when we move out towards our desires. In Japan, lung 10 is considered to be a kidney tonic point and used especially for male sexual problems. Lung 10 can also be used for drooping eyelids, being a fish point, because fish do not close their eyes. I prefer direct moxa, oku, on lung 10, but it is also possible to needle it, in which case I use a .12 needle, the dark greens by Sarin, by 15 millimeters. So it's a very light needle, because it's not a very nice area to needle. The character fish appears only in lung 10. Kiiko Matsumoto likes to talk of the area under liver 3 as a fish area also, where Maruyama Shaoyin Chue Point is located. This is based on some Buddha statues which have a fish engraved on the foot, on the plantar side just across from liver 3. As an aside, the fish is not one of the 32 marks traditionally describing the Buddha, and most Buddha statues will not have this fish. However, some clearly do. So what is this business of the fish, and how does it relate to the kidneys and to the area across from large intestine 4 and from liver 3? Something we're all always interested in because of the 4 gates. We're always talking large intestine 3, large intestine 4, liver 3. The fish can be seen as our ancestor. We have evolved from the ocean and from fish, which then became reptile and then evolved into either birds or to mammals. So the fish is our root, our source, and therefore relates to the kidneys. If the Chinese had the concept of an amoeba, we might have seen amoeba border points rather than fish border points that would relate to our roots. What is unique to fish is that they have a spine, unlike earlier forms of life, like amoebas. So a fish point might have an effect on this feature, the spine. Coming from a different understanding, I'm looking at how the palm of the hand and the foot affect the spine, how they have been used in the yogic traditions to make the equivalent of the fish. Yoga postures that connect the thenar eminence and the plantar surface of the bunion bone, that is the areas across from large intestine 4 and liver 3, I usually name Vajra, Supta Vajrasana for example. We also have Bhadravajrasana and Laguvajrasana. Vajra is translated as a thunderbolt, something that cuts through. In Chinese, it is translated as Jinggang, tough metal, which is what can cut through things. This is how the Diamond Sutra, the Vajracchedika, is translated, the tough metal that cuts through illusion. Postures that connect the areas across large intestine 4 and liver 3 will do so crossing the spine, so they thunderbolt the spine. There is a light Vajrasana, Laguvajrasana, which does not cross the body, but it still sends a strong wave through the spine. Notice the picture on the right. The other kind of asana that binds the thinner eminence and the banyan is named Matsyandra, either a half or a full, Ardha Matsyendrasana or Purna Matsyendrasana. In this case, the arm is crossing not through the spine, but across the leg, again sending the spine up, like a thunderbolt, in this case in a twist. Matsya is a fish in Sanskrit, and Indra is God. So Matsyandra is a sage considered to be the founder of Hatha Yoga. So with Matsyendrasana, the spinal twist, we come back to the fish. So what we see is that bringing the areas across large intestine 4 and liver 3 together creates a jolt in the spine. In Chinese terms, we might say it pushes the marrow through the spine, relating to the kidneys, consolidating. It squeezes the lower dantian to send out energy through the spine. Although these yoga postures are quite advanced, you can experiment with the energetics of it by crossing one foot over the opposite thigh and then placing your opposite side thinner eminence on the flesh of the banyan bone area. You will likely feel a consolidating, a calming in the very low abdomen. The yoga postures are basically ways to enhance and heighten this energetics. Lung 11, Shaoshang. This is a point that I do not have much clinical resonance with, although obviously many practitioners do, using it to exchange, to trade out heat in the lungs or the throat. The name, Shang, means a merchant, to discuss or to trade. If the lungs did their job, it means we took what is in the center and exchanged it, as the name lung 1 suggests, all the way out to the furthest extremity at lung 11.